I'm Kyle from Coates, and we're going to be talking about basic Coates 1600 3D balancer operation. Let's start by getting our wheel and tire mounted onto the shaft of the balancer. The foundation of proper wheel balancing is centering. If you don't have the wheel centered properly on the balancer, it won't ride properly when it's on the vehicle. A collet and having it properly sized is the first step. This two-sided collet is the collet that we're going to use on this 20-inch truck wheel. This truck wheel here has a large hub bore center that can sometimes be challenging to mount properly. This collet fits snugly inside the hub bore center of the wheel, and this wheel also requires a hub-centric ring, which we have removed to properly mount this wheel and tire onto the balancer. Remember, no matter what you do, if you don't have the wheel centered properly, it will not ride nice on the vehicle. Now that we've selected the proper sized collet, another accessory that can help us in centering this wheel and tire properly is the use of a balancer wheel lift. A wheel lift isn't just meant to prevent injuries such as back injuries and finger injuries when using a balancer. It can also help a technician center the wheel better on the balancer because it allows the technician to properly mount the wheel to the balancer in a uniform fashion on the collet. And it also makes balancing heavy wheels like this a breeze. Next step is to select the proper pin plate. 3 and 6 lug wheels require the use of a 3-lug pin plate. 4 and 8 lug wheels require the use of a 4-lug pin plate. 5 and 10 lug wheels require the use of a 5-lug pin plate. Using a pin plate not only helps the technician to center the wheel on the collet by allowing the wheel to climb the collet uniformly, but it also prevents damage to sensitive cosmetic wheels such as this one. The last step is to secure the wheel and tire to the balancer using the Coates hub nut. Always remember to lower your wheel lift before you take a measurement spin. Next, we're going to look at the different buttons, modes, and functions of the 1600 3D wheel balancer. We'll start off here at the top where we have our instructional windows. These two windows at the top simply tell the operator what mode the balancer is in and what it is that the operator needs to do next. We have 2 weight display windows, inboard and outboard. This window here is telling us that we need 1 ounce of weight on the inboard plane. This next window is telling us that we need 5 ounces of corrective weight on the outboard plane. Next, we have our weight mode icons here at the bottom. These are 2 tape weights that are showing us that for this wheel here, we have the balancer in tape mode. Next, we have our navigation icons across the bottom. Green button here with the wheel on it. This green button is to spin the wheel. The green button with the arrow in the center means to move forward in the operation or next. And the third button on the right that looks like a stop sign, this is the stop button. This will stop the balancer or allow you to start over to take a new wheel measurement for the next wheel. It will also unlock the wheel from the stop and lock function when you're applying corrective weights. Next, along the left-hand side of the balancer screen, we have our balance option icons. The very bottom button here is our A/B operator button. This allows the balancer to be operated by 2 separate technicians and allows them to store different sized wheels if they're working on different vehicles but sharing the same balancer. This next button is a caliper, and this caliper button is what you would use if you chose to manually enter the width dimension of the wheel. Since the Coates 1600 is a 3D balancer, you shouldn't ever need to manually enter in the width dimension of the wheel because this balancer is equipped with a sonar. Our next button that has a wheel weight icon in the center, this button here turns the balancer from round off or fine mode. So when you hit this button, instead of the balancer rounding to the next 1/4 ounce increment, it shows you the exact weight amount that the balancer is calling for. The next button allows the operator of the balancer to select different weight modes, whether it's tape 1, tape 2, or clip 1, clip 2. The next button is car mode and truck mode. Car mode, the balancer rounds off in quarter-ounce increments. In truck mode, the balancer rounds off in half-ounce increments. This top button is our balancer mode button. Your balancer has 3 main modes: ProBalance, Dynamic, and Static. For the best balance on high-performance wheels and tires, we recommend keeping the balancer in ProBalance mode. You know you're in ProBalance mode when this button is green and the word Pro appears in the center of the button. This button corresponds with our ProBalance window down here on the right-hand side of the screen. When this window turns red, that means that ProBalance has detected a high amount of residual static in the assembly. Once you've corrected that residual static, this window will turn green with a check mark. If you take the balancer out of ProBalance mode, you can select either Dynamic or Static only. For the best balance, we recommend that you use ProBalance for all vehicles that you're balancing. In some cases, if a technician only wants to hang one plane of corrective weights, for instance, if you have a custom truck wheel or some other assembly that only allows for one plane of corrective weights, you can simply put the balancer in static mode and the balancer will hang one plane of corrective weights. Immediately next to our weight display windows, we have wheel weight position bars. These bars will illuminate the center or the longest bar when the wheel is indexed in the proper position to hang weight. So on our inboard plane here, given that the center bar is illuminated in green, we are ready to hang that tape weight at the 12 o'clock position. Moving to the outboard plane, now that the center bar is illuminated fully, now the wheel is indexed properly on the outboard plane. And on the outboard plane in tape mode, you hang the adhesive weight on the laser pointer. Next, let's enter the dimensions of this wheel into the balancer and prepare to hang our corrective weights in order to balance it. The first step will be to take the A&D arm and press it against the side of the wheel until it beeps. Next, rotate the laser to identify the outboard tape weight location. Ideally, this will be the furthest, most outboard position on the inside of the wheel. Once you have that in position, next use the laser on the A&D arm and line it up with the laser pointer and touch the inside of the wheelbarrow until the balancer beeps. Now we have this wheel measured. Now it's time to take a balancing spin. Once we've taken our initial measuring run and we're ready to start applying adhesive weights, you can now also have the option to hide weights behind the spokes. This is a great option for custom car customers or folks that have custom aftermarket wheels that prefer to not see adhesive weights on the outside of their wheels. The first thing you need to do is be indexed to the outboard weight position. In this case, we're looking for 5 ounces on the outboard side. In order to initiate hiding weights behind the spokes, simply push this button here that looks like the wheel and follow the instructions on the screen. Using the laser pointer dot on the bottom, we're going to rotate the wheel towards the user to the first weight location, then hit the green button on the bottom to mark it, then move the wheel away from the user to the next spoke and identify spoke location 2 by hitting the green button. And now we can split weights behind 2 separate spokes, and you toggle between the 2 spokes by hitting the green button. The balancer is calling for 3 1/4 ounce on the inboard plane. And because the balancer is showing us a green bar, that means that the balancer is already indexed to that weight position. And now we're going to hang our 3 1/4 ounce on our inboard plane. Next, we'll move to the outboard plane, where the balancer is calling for 3 1/2 ounces. We're going to get 3 1/2 ounces of adhesive weight ready, and we're going to apply them at the center of our laser pointer. Now that we've applied our corrective weights, let's do a check spin. We've just done our check spin, and this wheel is calling for 0 ounces of weight on the inboard plane, 0 ounces of weight on the outboard plane. This is a balanced wheel.